What's up guys, TSJAwesome 628 here, back again with another F1 2020 My Team Career Mode video, this time for the 5th race of the season at the Dutch Grand Prix. Let's get straight into our activity timeline, where we have a press interview halfway through the time, so we have to have 2 blocks of 4-day sessions, so we're going to go for 2 2-day sessions, and then 1 3-day and 1 1-day to fill it out. We're obviously, having won the last 2 races, we want to try and make it 3 in a row. I do really enjoy Zandvoort. I think it's a great addition to the calendar. But we do have an upgrade failure on durability going into this race, so we're just going to repurchase that upgrade, and hopefully it will be on in time for the next race anyway.
We are in the HQ of our newest Formula 1 team. We've got an awful lot to talk about, so let's jump straight in. Sponsors seem to be climbing over one another to get their name onto your car. What do you plan on investing that extra money into?
Yeah, we've slowly been able to get more sponsors. I think we're up to a few now, and we're just really trying to improve the car. The chassis is going to be developed quite a lot in the future.
What was the most important thing that helped you achieve this?
We've managed to improve our drag and reduce it as much as possible. Yes, it is important to always develop your drivers there. My teammate is obviously also going to try and help win the constructors with us. Maybe he'll even challenge for the drivers' championship. So we need to put our hopes into him, and hopefully he'll return with our championship. We always invest in our staff, and if he performs, then we'll keep him. We're all going to be going for the titles this season. We've got had a good start to the season. We are currently leading both titles, and I'd hope we can continue this for the rest of the season.
It's been wonderful to spend some time with you. Best of luck.
So we're now going to fast forward onto the Dutch Grand Prix. We do have another upgrade scheduled for the 26th, but that one has also failed, and we don't currently have enough resource points to be able to repurchase it. I'm just checking, yeah, we need a few more resource points, so we're going to have to wait to repurchase it. And now we're just going to go on to the Grand Prix weekend and check out the weather forecast. So as we load into the laptop for this race weekend, we can move over and check the weather forecast, and we may be set to have our first wet race of the season. Qualifying will be completely dry, but during the middle of the race there seems to be some rain scheduled. That could affect things, especially whether we need to make an earlier pit stop or try and go longer to meet the rain. Now just looking at the vehicle performance comparison charts, and we're still first ahead of Mercedes, and then Racing Points are still holding down third ahead of Red Bull. We now have enough resource points to repurchase our chassis upgrade, and we also have enough resource points to purchase another minor upgrade. So our only minor upgrade that we can purchase is on the powertrain side of things and improving the ERS on our car. And hopefully those upgrades will help us in the coming races. On to Q1 now, and for this first lap in Q1 I'm just going to take you on board on a lap of Zandvoort. I'm going to leave the whole lap in. As I said, I do enjoy driving around it. It's probably not going to be a perfect lap, but this corner, it always seems like you can always, no matter how late you brake, you can always get good traction around that corner. But obviously there's always a better line. Now you've got the 2 fast right-handers first on here. They're not quite flat out, obviously you need to brake somewhat. And then the second one I didn't go as fast as I probably could have. And then we have to brake into a slow right-hander and even slower left-handers. Then we go on to the straight halfway through the lap. And then there's maximum aggression into this next chicane, so you want to try and brake as late as possible. while still making the corner quite well. And then a quite long left-hander for the speed you're currently going at, as you have to just hold it in there. And then you've got the banking on the final corner and the long sweeping hander that leads on to the main straights, and that is a lap for Zandvoort, and it's a 108.1, and it should safely see us through to Q2. And indeed, as we fast forward to the end of the session, it does see us through to Q2, top of the session, 12 thousandths ahead of our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and Lewis Hamilton is also within a tenth of us. Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll, Bottas and Giovinazzi are all within half a second, and then come the Red Bulls, the McLarens, the other Ferrari, Renault of Sergio Perez, and the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. But at the lower end of the session, we have the cars that are going to be knocked out, and indeed it is most of the cars you'd expect, except for the one shock that is Danny Kvyat fails to make it into the session into Q2, and George Russell and the Haas. That could be the first Q2 appearance this season for any of the Haas, Alfa Romeo or Williams cars. I'm not exactly sure, but it's a great effort by George Russell, and he is into Q2. Now on to Q2 and our only lap in the session, which was a half decent lap. It was similar quality to the first, and I did find I was quite consistent around this track, and again it's a 108.1, so I said consistency, and we set the same lap time on two different sessions, except this time it was not enough for top spot, as Daniel Ricciardo was 6/10 quicker in the other car, and Lewis Hamilton was also 2/10 quicker than us, so maybe we will need to find some more pace as we head into Q3. Both racing points, both Ferraris, Verstappen, Perez and the other Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas also make it through to Q3, which means that Gasly, Albon, Sainz, Ocon, Norris and Russell, who we probably expected to go out, all do not make it through to Q3. But as well, importantly, it means that the tyres, that all of us will start on our softs tomorrow, which could be important depending when the rain comes, because if the cars outside the top 10 can start on mediums and maybe make it to the rain when we can't, then that could be give them an advantage for the race. Now for our first lap in Q3, and we did set another decent lap, and this time, and again, a 108.1, so consistency, and at the moment it puts us at the top of the timesheets. But as we fast forward towards the end of the session, Lewis Hamilton has gone quicker than us. Strangely not Daniel Ricciardo yet, he did set a really quick lap in Q2, but so far not being able to replicate that lap in Q3. And as we head through our lap, we're already just under half a tenth up, but we probably need to be gaining a bit more if we want to try and get pole position. But Ricciardo does indeed go quickest, but we're also 3/10 up, and as we cross the line, it is going to be pole position at the Dutch Grand Prix.
Qualifying complete. Let's review our top three today. Thomas, Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
So we pulled out the lap time out of the bag when we needed it, because if we had stayed with our original lap time of a 108.1, then we would have been in P4 behind both Mercedes and Daniel Ricciardo. But the 3/10 improvement we gained right at the end was enough to see us in pole position, and it's a front row lockout for the team, and hopefully we can turn that into a 1-2 in the race tomorrow. Charles Leclerc will line up in 5th, with Verstappen in 6th, Stroll will start 7th, and Vettel will start 8th, ahead of Perez in 9th, and Giovinazzi will round out the top 10. So I would have expected the racing points to be slightly higher, but Leclerc and Verstappen
Off the back of a
definitely set good lap
qualifying
times.
session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Thomas lines up on pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo. A strong showing from the Australian. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Verstappen, Stroll, Vettel, Perez and Antonio Giovinazzi, Gasly, Albon, Carlos Sainz and Ocon, Russell, Fiat, Kevin Magnussen and Roman Grosjean, Latifi, De Vries, Aitken and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid.
So for this strategy, we're just going to try and go as long as possible on the softs, as we may just be able to make it to the wet weather, and we're going to go from there. I think if the wet weather is delayed, we'll probably stop on to mediums or another set of softs. We'll never actually go on to the hards in this race, but we're going to see how long these softs will last and whether we can get straight into the wet period. But it's 5 red lights, and it's lights out and away we go, and we get a decent start again. We cover off Daniel Ricciardo slightly, then pull back to the outside, and we're going to take and keep the lead into turn 1, although we do run slightly wide, but that just allows us to get a better exit and pull away, while Bottas and Ricciardo are going to go side by side right behind us. And it seems like Valtteri Bottas has managed to overtake Daniel Ricciardo, and hopefully if we do a better pace in the Mercedes this weekend, then we can pull away from them before Ricciardo overtakes. So at the end of lap 1 we are just over a second ahead, and we're going to continue to try and set fastest laps to extend the gap. By the end of lap 3 we set another fastest lap, and we're now 2.5 seconds ahead. Now I'm ball with Daniel Ricciardo, who is really needing to make this move on Valtteri Bottas if he wants any chance of winning this Grand Prix. So that's exactly what he's going to do, is he's going to go round the outside into turn 1. Bottas will fight back up the inside, but we see Daniel Ricciardo overtake Valtteri, and he has already gained 3 seconds on Bottas and is keeping the gap to us at about 3 seconds. As we just fast forward later on in this Grand Prix, onto lap 7 already now, you can see the rain is starting to revive, and Ricciardo's reduced the gap to about 2.5, so it does look like the battle for us will be with our teammate, as Bottas and Hamilton really just don't seem to have any pace this race. As you can see, we've basically just been asking Jeff what the tyre status is like, and at the end of lap 11 we do decide it is time to come into the pits for intermediates. But sadly for our battle, it seems like Daniel Ricciardo has also decided this is the correct lap to come for intermediates, which means we'll have the double stack and he'll probably be held behind. So as we come out of the pits, we are going to remain in the lead as pretty much every driver pitted, bar Giovinazzi and maybe one of like the Haas or Williams or Alfa Romeo cars. I'm not sure if one of them decided to stay out and risk it, but I can see that Giovinazzi did stay out, and the gap to Ricciardo is now 8 seconds, so we gained 5 seconds in that pit stop phase. And now on board with Lance Stroll here, who when he came into the pits for intermediates managed to jump Sergio Perez, who had been just ahead of him, so he has gained a position in this race. And even more importantly, Lewis Hamilton has come out behind both of them, obviously here to double stack with Valtteri Bottas, and sadly for him, he has come out behind both the Renault and Racing Point. Now we see the Renault of Sergio Perez overtaking George Russell, who did take the gamble on staying out on dry tyres, and I don't think it's really worked. He's been holding up the cars quite a bit, and as you can see, Stroll's already miles away in the distance, and Perez has already gained massively on Hamilton based on how slow George Russell is going on these dry tyres, and he does just pull away into the pits because he can't afford to lose any more time in this race. So his hard work in getting into Q2 has sort of been done and not paid off after this strategy gamble has failed. And as we head onto lap 14. We're just testing to see whether the weather will dry up at some point, and apparently it will be in 10 minutes time. So the gap to Ricciardo is now 16 seconds, and we're just pulling time and time and time out of him. And as we head on to lap 17, it's 16.5 seconds. So he's still holding on to that P2 position quite well, though. Bottas doesn't really seem to be threatening him, and obviously Mercedes only have one car to fight with, as Lewis Hamilton is further down the order behind Leclerc, Verstappen, Stroll and Perez. So we're already on lap 21 now, and nothing much has happened in this Grand Prix, as we have a massive wobble at the end of lap 21, but we keep hold of the car, and we've extended our lead to just over 20 seconds over Daniel Ricciardo. And as we head on to lap 23, take quite a weird line through the chicane, but it's the quickest way and it doesn't give you a warning, as we lap Nick de Vries, and we have lapped the first car on lap 23, and we'll see if we can lap any more. The engineers want us to come at the end of the pits, but we know that the weather is going to dry up, so we don't come in at the end of this lap. At the end of lap 24 as well, we stay out again, and the gap is already up to 23 seconds. Now, heading on to this lap, we now have a few drivers who do think it is time to switch over to the dry tyres, but Sergio Perez decides that he wants to stop for another set of inters, and as you see, like just behind him, Lewis Hamilton has gone on to mediums, so I think Sergio Perez may have missed a trick here, and he may have to stop again in the next lap. On lap 25, we now lap Nicholas Latifi, and now we're going to head forward and just try and lap as many cars in this lap as possible. We don't want to get held in the pits when we do come into the pits, as we do get the strategy change option, and we will be coming into the pits for softs at the end of this lap. So we don't want to be held in the pits, so we want to try and get ahead of these cars before we go into the pit lane, and Grosjean does let us through, and through the next corner George Russell will hopefully let us through as well. Yes, he does. So only Norris and whichever car is ahead of him will let us through, as we do get quite a big slide going into the final corner, but Norris and Aitken are the two cars directly ahead, and let's see if we can jump any of them as we head into the pits. We do have the last pit stop area, which could benefit us, and indeed it does benefit us, as we do manage to jump both Jack Aitken and Lando Norris, which are two less cars to lap in this race, as we had a very quick pit stop from the team. And now I experienced that there isn't just ultimate grip from these soft tyres, and we still have to work for a bit, as we went wide at one corner and then didn't have the best traction on the next. But hopefully the grip is only going to get better. Now on board with Alex Albon, who is trying to overtake Pierre Gasly, who got held up by the Alfa Romeo, who pitted a lap later. So now Alex Albon will have a chance here, and they may have made a slight bit of contact there. Pierre Gasly looks like he's going to defend the position, but Alex Albon keeps his nose in there on the soft tyres with more grip and goes round the outside of the next corner, and now is firmly ahead as they head into the corner. So a great move by Alex Albon. And then onto lap 27, we still have a 23.5 second lead over Daniel Ricciardo, but the lap times are slowly coming down. We're not up to max grip yet, but they're gaining. We're going about a second quicker each lap as we catch up to Kevin Magnussen, and we're about to start lapping him as well. We're going to see how many cars we can lap in this race, as we are quite far ahead, and barring any disaster, we will win this race. Ricciardo has gained on us over the last couple of laps, though he's brought the gap down to 22.8, but it will definitely be too little too late. And as we head on to lap 30, we are catching up to Esteban Ocon in the Renault, so we're going to be lapping the 15th place car. and we'll see whether we can also get the fastest lap at any point in this race, as the lap times are coming down, and there are still 6 laps to go, and we could be in prime position to take this at the end. So we do finally set a green sector as we head on to lap 31, and we do go 3 tenths quicker to get the fastest lap. So we're catching up to Danny Kvyat in AlphaTauri as we head into turn 1. And Daniel Ricciardo will probably try and respond to set a fastest lap of his own, and indeed he does. He sets it 3 tenths quicker than we went, so we need to try and improve, and this lap needs to be good, and it is good. It's a 1:10.2, and we do reclaim fastest lap. Now on board with Max Verstappen here, who has been behind Charles Leclerc for pretty much the entirety of this race, but now he thinks he wants to show the Arandra and his fans what he is here for at his home Grand Prix, and he does go round the outside of Charles Leclerc into turn 1 and takes the position up into P4, I believe, in this race. Now on lap 32 we go even quicker to set a 1:10 flat as our fastest lap, so we catch up to even more cars than lap then, and our gap is still around 22 seconds to Daniel Ricciardo, and we only have 3 laps to go. So it hasn't been the most interesting race, this one. I thought with the wet weather there may be some more action, maybe a few mistakes somewhere, but we have kind of dominated it from start to finish, and we're going to lap Carlos Sainz here, and there is indeed though a yellow flag on the track, and we're going to confirm that Danny Kvyat is out of the race. So shame for the AlphaTauri man, although I don't think he was fighting for anything, as we had already lapped him, so he would have been down in about P14 as we catch up to Sergio Perez and try and lap him. He's currently in 12th place after his strategical gamble where he went back onto the intermediates rather than pulling straight for dries. He could have been up there fighting for around P6, P7, but instead he is back down in P12. Now on board with Danny Kvyat, as his engine just fails from behind him, and he does just have to pull over to the side, and is indeed out of this race. Back on board with us, and as we head on to lap 35, it has actually started raining again, so I think if there were a few more laps in this race, then we would probably have to switch back onto the intermediates, but there aren't, and we do lap Pierre Gasly, who's in P11, and we're going to come around the final few corners, and we should be able to win this race. So we're 23 seconds ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. It's been a dominant display all weekend, as we were fastest in Q1 and then took pole, and we now are going to come across the line to win our 3rd race in a row. So we'll extend our championship further as Lando Norris wins driver of the day, and here we are on the podium with our teammate, and a 1-2 for the team, and Valtteri Bottas in P3. So celebrating, I think only the second 1-2 in the team's history. Obviously Bahrain was the first 1-2 in the team's history, but this will be the second.
Thomas increases their championship lead. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today. An incredible performance.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. Meanwhile, a strong weekend from Red Bull this time out, and they improve their position in the championship. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So we win the race by 24 seconds over Daniel Ricciardo. We only got fastest lap by half a tenth though, so on raw pace he matched us most this weekend, but just over consistency, as I said in qualifying, we were consistent, and we were consistently quick, which is always good. Valtteri Bottas takes home P3 a further 16 seconds behind Ricciardo, and Verstappen finishes 3.5 seconds behind Bottas after overtaking Charles Leclerc later on to take P4. Lance Stroll then finishes in P6, a quiet race for him after managing to jump both Perez and Hamilton in the pits. Hamilton is a disappointing 7th after having to stack with his teammate, and Vettel takes home P8 in the second Ferrari. Antonio Giovinazzi takes home P9 after staying out long on the soft tyres, so good recovery for him, and Alex Albon overtook Pierre Gasly to finish 10th. Gasly was the first of the lapped cars as we lapped him on the final lap in P11, and Carlos Sainz finished P12. Sergio Perez finished down in P13, disappointing day for him after what looked like it was going to be a promising day out. Esteban Ocon was P14, and Kevin Magnussen took home P50. Lando Norris, who was voted driver of the day, I guess because he started last, finished P16, and George Russell finished in P17. Jack Aitken finished P18, Nicholas Latifi 19th, Romain Grosjean 20th, Nick De Vries 21st, and Danny Kvyat failed to finish. In the championship, we take a 32-point championship lead, and Bottas is a further 9 points back from Daniel Ricciardo. Lance Stroll is then on 44 points, still ahead of Max Verstappen, who is now overtaken Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc is now overtaken Giovinazzi for 7th as well, and Lando Norris remains in P9. Sergio Perez remains in P10, and Albon overtakes Pierre Gasly by a point to take P11. Esteban Ocon is then in P13 on 8 points, and then comes Kvyat on 4 points, Vettel also on 4 points, and Carlos Sainz on 2 points. So Carlos Sainz, Sebastian Vettel and Danny Kvyat will probably be slightly disappointed that they don't already have more points to their names. And then come the Alfa Romeos, Hasses and Williams cars that have all failed to score so far this season. On to the constructors' standings, and we have an 87-point lead over Mercedes, and we have almost double their points, and Racing Point then come in P3 and 68 points. Red Bull are then on 48 points, ahead of Ferrari on 35, and Renault on 22. McLaren are on 18, both of those teams, McLaren and Renault, failing to score this weekend. AlphaTauri are on 14 points, and then Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams are all looking to try and find their first points of the year at some place this season. We'll have to see if they can find any points this season, as it will be a tough ask.
I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. Your team dominated the race today. Was it the car or the team?
Well, yeah, we have the best aerodynamic, we have the best car on the grid, and we have the best drivers as well. I mean, I was hoping it was going to be a close battle between us. I thought we'd be going against them for the title, but I guess we both learned from it, but it was good to come out on top. Yeah, I did feel comfortable. I felt consistent all weekend, so wet weather does sometimes pose risks, but I did feel on top of it today.
Do you have any comments on the performance?
Yeah, it was a decent performance from Daniel. Obviously, he got held up in the pits a couple of times and got stuck behind Valtteri Bottas, but we both had the car and we both put in the performance to take home the 1-2 this weekend. So, as we head on to rivalry breakdown, we have now beaten Lewis Hamilton in the rivalry, and therefore we get some extra acclaim to our name, although we are still on less acclaim level than Daniel Ricciardo, who is on level 14, whereas we're still on level 13. Whereas level 16 as a team, and we did meet all our goals this weekend, so we get 1.5 extra cash bonus for this weekend, and that brings our total up to 13.35 million. But that'll be where I end the episode. I'll see you guys next time for the Spanish Grand Prix.